everyone, it's Holly and I'm here with my quarter 1 wrap up. In my head I was like, I'm gonna come in and do like an update on like my life, and now I'm like, I don't even know if I want to do that. I don't know. I'm fine. Like, I am a relatively healthy person. I went to the doctor recently. He said I was very healthy. I don't feel like I deserve to be healthy based on how I've been treating my body for like the last 6 months, but you know, according to like blood work and stuff, I'm healthy. My family is healthy. I did get the COVID vaccine. My mom, who has been opposed to it, is open to getting it now, which is very exciting, for me at least. My stepmom is vaccinated. My dad is vaccinated. There are a lot of good things. Work hasn't been too intense. It was a little crazy in like February, but it's definitely started to get more controllable and not feel as overwhelming. However, I feel like everything should be fine. Like, I should be having a great life and everything, and I'm not. Like, I'm just not okay right now. Like, and that just happens sometimes, you know, like your anxiety is just really, I've been having so many horrible anxiety dreams every night. Like, my anxiety won't even feel that bad during the day, and I don't know if I'm just like repressing things, but at night it's really bad, and I'm definitely grinding my teeth and clenching my jaw, which is never a good sign. And I don't know, so it's not good. There's a lot of things. There's things that like I wanted to get done last year that didn't even get done, and like I had a big video that was supposed to go up a couple weeks ago, and I ended up screwing up something with like with my computer, and now I have to like re-edit the whole thing, which is fine, but it's very overwhelming. And it's just like one of those, like, do you ever have that thing? So this happened to me once in high school, right? I don't even remember like what was going on in my life. I'm sure it was nothing. It's like, really, my life was not that hard in high school. Like, some people do have really rough lives, but I was not one of those people. I was just having like a bunch of just like one of those days where just like everything just like adds up, like little things. I probably hadn't slept well the night before, and then I had a juice box with my lunch, and when I put the straw in, it like did that like exploding thing, you know how like it's supposed to do the tabs on the side and it's supposed to like release pressure or whatever. And so I like spilt juice on myself, and then I just started bawling because of the juice box. Now, the reason I remember this moment is because then one of the lunch monitors came over and yelled at one of the boys that was eating lunch with me because she thought that he had done something. Because I did kind of sit with like the majority of the boys that sat at my lunch table that year were probably not the best kids. I think they were definitely troublemakers, but and she's like, what did you do to her? And I'm like, he didn't do anything, and he really didn't. And that's like why it's like stood out to me. But it was literally, I wasn't even crying because of the juice box. It was just like that all these little things build up together and become this horrible thing. And so that's where I am right now, I think, is there's just a bunch of little things that have just turned into such an overwhelming problem for me to deal with. I have not been in the best place for like all of 2021. I have some good days, and I think now that like the weather is getting a little nicer, like I have my door open right now to let some fresh air in. I think that's very good. It's good for me. It's good for Murphy. He definitely loves it. He definitely gets cabin fever over the summer. Like, he's not an outdoor cat, but I think he loves the fresh air. He loves being able to like smell everything, and I do too. So I think that will help a little. There's been a lot going on for everybody like in the world, and if you're having a rough time, I guess just know you're not alone. Like, it's okay if you're having a bad day or a tough time or anything like that. Like, it's totally fine. So let's move on. Let's talk about bookish things. So I started this last year where instead of doing monthly wrap-ups, because that was just too much for me mentally, I started doing quarterly wrap-ups. So I go over some statistics on my reading, and then I talk about my 3 favorite books. So 1 book from each month. So quarter 1 is January, February, and March. So let's get into it. I read a total of 68 books, which is very good, with a total pages of 17,312, and I ended up buying 25 books in the first quarter. When it comes to format, 14 of them were physical reads, so hardcover, paperback, mass market. 12 were ebooks, and 42 were audiobooks. Apparently I'm really into audiobooks now. I mean, audiobooks are very easy for me, especially at work. Like, for the most part, depending on, sometimes my work will require like too much brain power, where like it's more that I just like, I won't focus on the book because I'm like super focused on what I'm doing. But for the most part, especially right now, I'm one of the only people in my office, I will just listen to a lot of audiobooks. For the age category, 59 were adult books, 8 were YA, and 1 was other. I think it was a middle grade. For publication year, 12 were ARCs, so they were 2021 ARCs, but I keep them separate. 1 was just a 2021 release, and 55 were backlists, so from before 2021. When it comes to star ratings, I had no DNFs, no 1 stars, 1 2-star, 13 3-stars, 44 4-stars, and 10 5-stars. Genre, 45 of them, don't attack my phone. 45 were romance, 9 were fantasy, 9 were nonfiction, and 5 were other, so some other genre. For sources, 13 I had purchased, 21 came from Audible, so either I own the Audible book or it's like an Audible Plus book. 4 came from Scribd, 17 were from my library, 6 were NetGalley, and 7 were other. So the other ones are ARCs that I get from not NetGalley, which are all Serena Bowen ARCs, so either directly an ARC from her, or she has the World of True North series, or like series, which are books set in her world by other authors. And since I am in her ARC group, we are offered ARCs of all of those. I don't take all of them because there are a ton, and I just cannot commit to that. I wish I could. And so those as well. I'm going to do a video on the World of True North because I do think it's really interesting, and apparently other authors have done it as well. And I do really like the idea, the concept. So stay tuned for that. For the authors, 7 were male and 61 were female. None were anything else. So 52 were new books and 16 I had already read before. So I feel like that's really good. I'm like pretty happy with all of these stats. I would say that there were no like, now I'm going to talk about my favorites in a minute, but there were no standout favorites. A lot of the 5 stars I think were rereads. That's fine. I think I'm getting a little like stingy with my 5 stars lately in the last couple of years, but that's fine. In January, my favorite book was a reread, and that was Enchanted by Gail, Carson, Levine. And I read this for my Smash or Trash Cinderella video, which I believe is coming out after this. Should have come out before it, but it's not. I had read this several times when I was in like middle school and high school. I was kind of afraid to reread it, but oh my gosh, it's still amazing. So I would say it's like middle grade, but I think you could read it at any age. Ella is amazing, and like if you've seen the movie, whether you like or dislike the movie, I would still recommend giving the book a shot. Like, they're completely different, so like don't even compare them. I mean, they're not completely different, like they both have a girl named Ella who's cursed with the gift of obedience, because that's what the story is about, is this girl, everybody gets fairy gifts, and her fairy gift is one of obedience, so she has to do whatever people tell her to do, and that's really like a punishment. And it's kind of a short book, but so much happens in here. Like, there is a romance, but it's so amazing. Like, they're friends, and there's great friendships. The world is great. I think this is an amazing book, and I think it's especially a really good book probably for like young girls. It's amazing. It's like up there, I feel like, in my required reading for like girls under 15. Ella Enchanted, A Wrinkle in Time, like required reading. In February, my favorite, kind of a surprise, maybe not, because like she's been a favorite before, I think, but Hideaway by Penelope Douglas, which is the second book in the, I don't know what it's called, Devil's Night maybe series, I don't know. These are dark romance, and this one follows Kai and Banks. I didn't love the first book, but decided to continue on with the series, and I'm really glad I did. The first one is still my least favorite, but this one is most definitely my favorite out of all of them. I have finished the series now. I just really liked Kai and Banks. While this is a dark romance and it does deal with some really dark topics, Kai is like such a sweetheart. Like, I really like him. I really liked Banks as a heroine. She was so strong and inspiring, and like her strength was kind of a subtler one sometimes, but I really admired her. And this was one of those books, it was an audiobook, and where I like didn't want to stop reading it. Like I came home from work and had to just like listen and couldn't do anything else. It's very emotional. I'm still not 100% sure on if dark romance is for me, but like at least with Penelope Douglas, like sometimes I don't like her books, and by don't like I mean I give them like 3 stars, but sometimes she just hits with me. And then in March, my I guess favorite book was a 4-star read actually, and that is A Vow So Bold and Deadly by Brigid Kemmerer. I think I did have a 5-star, or at least like a couple in March, but they were rereads, and I really try not to do rereads as my favorite if I can avoid it, but you know, like I already did one, I wasn't gonna do it again. So I did really like A Vow So Bold and Deadly. It is the final book in the Cursebreaker series, but I do think that the first 2 books were stronger. I don't like, I'm not disappointed with how this ended. I'm not disappointed with how where the characters went. I was worried like maybe, because now we have 4 POVs, I was worried maybe I would want to be in one set of POVs more or whatever, and I wasn't. I was fully invested every time I was in somebody's head, which was awesome. But I think it's always hard to finish a series. Now it is kind of a little open where like more could happen, and I would be glad to read more in it. I enjoyed my time with the story, and I still enjoy the characters. I was a little worried about how she could possibly resolve it, but I think she did a really good job. I'm very happy with the conclusion. It's just not a 5-star blow it out of the park, or like hit it out of the park like A Curse so Dark and Lonely and A Heart So Fierce and Broken for me personally. I still think it's a very solid series. Would recommend. YA fantasy. I love these characters. I love all of them. I know there's some people who are like super into Ren and Harper and like hate Gray and Liamara, but I love them all. I think they're all very different. They all have different journeys. Would not complain about a Jake story if we were, you know, looking for story ideas. But or like other characters, you know, but I really enjoyed it. It made me want to reread the first 2 books, which I think is always a good sign, and not because like I forgot things, but because I just like being in the world, and I think that's a good sign for your series. So that is it. Those are my stats and some of my favorite books from the last 3 months, and I will see you next time. Bye.